Well. Hello, everyone. How's it going? It's good to be back. Even though it's like ridiculously hot, it's pretty good. Yeah, thanks for joining. I see that we have a few viewers on YouTube already, and there's a bit of things going on in the chat as well. Great to hear from you, Sharmila and Tobias, and there's a Thomas as well. Hi, Thomas. How's it going, everyone? I'm super excited to run the 51st edition of Webzurich today. And yeah, due to circumstances, we have to do it virtually again, and we can't do our summer barbecue. Unfortunate, I know. On the other hand, if you are not from Zurich, you probably enjoy the fact that you can join our meetup from wherever you are. If you haven't done so, say hi in the chat, say where you're from, what you're doing, what you're working on, and just like exchange with the other attendees. Just pay attention to the talks as well, because we have at least one fantastic talk from Silvia Götti today. And then I'll talk a little bit about structured data as well, but, chat away. It's fine. We have a hashtag if you want to share where you are and share this link with others. Use the hashtag Webzurich so that we can track what's going on Twitter as well. And yeah, just welcome. And this is amazing. And I'm happy to see you all here and see new faces and known faces in the chat. And it's unfortunate that we can't see each other in person, but hey, this is the best we've got. And I still think we can make a fantastic time out of it too. So for those who have never joined a Webzurich meetup before, what's Webzurich? It's basically a Zurich area meetup for people who make web stuff. So we struggle a little bit with finding the right term for all our members and ourselves, because we are like designers, user experience experts, developers, accessibility professionals, marketing people, SEOs, content strategy folks who work on frameworks, on CMSs, folks who do e-commerce platforms, interaction design, information architecture, extended reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, which is basically extended reality. And basically anyone who makes things on the web or is interested in making things on the web. You don't have to be a professional. If you did things on the web or want to learn how to contribute to the web in terms of content and the platform, this is the right place for you. We are welcoming everyone who wants to do stuff on the web, basically. And everyone is welcome. We do have a code of conduct that we'd like you to also respect while you're chatting in the chat box here on YouTube. We speak mostly English. In real-world meetups, you might hear other languages as well, which is perfectly fine. It's just if you speak English, that makes that more people can join the conversation, which I think is great. And what we try to do is we try to give a platform to get together, to share, collaborate, and have fun together. And we do this monthly. So we have been doing this for the last 4 years, I think. And every month we do one of these meetups. And right now we do them here on YouTube, which means that we can welcome more people from all around the world, which is great. But normally we do that in Impact Hub here in Zurich, which is our neutral home. And this meetup lives from participation of you. So you can just sit here and enjoy all the lovely talks and chit chat. But in the end, everyone has something to share, and if you learn something, or even if you struggled with something and then overcame the struggle and finally solved the problem or the challenge that you were working on, share that with others. We have 15-minute talks, very short ones, no Q&A, so you can just like basically drop us a line and tell us what you would like to talk about, and then there's a good chance that we can accommodate you, and we are helping you with things as well. You can find us in many places. For instance, on our website, webzurich.ch, we have a Slack where you can join various channels. For instance, if you look for new jobs, there's a jobs channel. Or if you look for new team members to join your team, also a possibility. We have the meetup group, which you probably used to get here, I guess, I don't know. And you can check out our hashtag for some stuff from the past. And hopefully some people tweet today as well. As I said, our talks are 15 minutes. We say plus Q&A, but basically there is no Q&A. So I should probably update this slide. Actually, you know what? Community work. This is fun, comma, no Q&A. Sorry for that one, but hey, this is real. This is live. That's great. You can submit your talk via our website. There's a very short form. It's a little button that says submit a talk, and then you can let us know of your idea, and then we'll get in touch and see when we can accommodate you. As I said, every month you get a chance. So even if it doesn't work out date-wise, don't worry about it. There's another one coming afterwards. If you are not sure if your topic is interesting or not, or if it's good, submit it. Because what's going to happen is we're going to tell you like, oh yeah, this is interesting, or we're going to tell you, well, this could be interesting if we like make it about this or make it about that specifically. So we are here to help you. We will help you with slides. We will help you with speaker training if that's what you need. We're definitely here to help you all because we want to hear your ideas and input, and we are sure everyone has an interesting story to tell. When I say we, I have said we many times today. It's the fantastic Webzurich team without which this entire endeavor would not exist anymore. There's Alexei, there's Daniel, there's Olga, there's Stuart, there's Rob, and then there's me. We are working together to make this happen, all in our free time, all volunteering. No one of us gets paid for this, but we just like to give back to the community that gave us so much, and we believe this is worth it. So yeah, thanks to my fellow co-organizers, this is amazing. If you want to sponsor us, that's totally possible. We have a Patreon, for instance. We also do have the opportunity to give us money for drinks or snacks when we do real world events again. Right now, we don't. We are always looking for professionalizing our recording equipment. And if you have other ideas on how you can support us to keep this running, every idea is much appreciated. Today, we have 3 fantastic sponsors. Number 1 is Rockstar. It's a recruiting agency that cares about you as the candidate and tries to find the best possible spot to put you in. They are also in our Slack community. So if you are looking for a new opportunity or new challenge, definitely talk to the people from Rockstar Recruiting. They're fantastic. Graph CMS is the CMS that powers our website. It's super easy to work with. I really love this. It's a headless CMS. You can build whatever front end you want. And they give you like all the admin interface basically, which is amazing. They help us run this website for free, which is super nice of them. And then there's Valtech, which is a software company here from Switzerland. They are great if you are looking for a new opportunity, then maybe talk to Valtech. Also, if you look for a company that implements your ideas and you don't know how to program, definitely talk to them. They can help you with that as well. Sweet. If you want to join the conversation, first opportunity is to join our Slack via the Webzurich website. For instance, there's a button that takes you to the Slack community. You can use the chat here in YouTube, or we have a Jitsi chat server that we can use afterwards. After the talks are done, you can join the webzh.dev/afterparty and then chat with others and just hang out and have a good time. Sweet. With that, our next meetup is on the 25th of September. We would love to see you again. It's very likely that this will also be streamed, so there's a good chance that you can also join this from wherever you are, and this will be virtual again as well. Definitely check it out. Go to the meetup.com website. Basically, go to our website and then use Meetup or the website itself to keep yourself posted on what's to come. If you have a talk that you would like to give, a 15-minute talk, 5 minutes, it's just 15 minutes. It's like 3 hands in minutes, whatever. Then let us know, submit it via the website. We are always looking for people who want to share a story with us. And with that, I come to the first person who is going to share their knowledge and a story with us today, which is Silvia. Silvia is awesome. We have had her as a speaker, I think, twice before. And I'm really looking forward to her current talk because she works with WebXR and she always has amazing experiments to check out. And it's really, really cool to follow her work. So please welcome Silvia with me. Hi, Silvia. How's it going?
Hello. Fine, thanks. It's
awesome.
My second talk this year. Last time was in February.
True. Yeah, so second talk this year. Hey, so you know the drill. In that case, I'll leave you to it. If you want to share your screen, I'll put your slides on, and then I'll remove myself. So in the comments, give a warm round of applause as much as you can in the comments for Silvia. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, hello everyone. So I'm Silvia, and wait, I need to share my screen here. So the whole entire AR stuff is only half as fun over stream, but I hope you can join me and have fun with this. So my talk is called More Experience with WebXR because last time it was called Experience with WebXR. So it's kind of the follow-up to the last one. Who's me? I'm a software engineer. I work here at Surreal. I joined actually the day I gave the last talk. So Surreal does the most accurate 3D copies of whatever object you send us in. So we do 3D models, which are absolutely exactly like the original ones, which means I have a lot of digital objects, access to a lot of digital objects, and we had to find a way to show them to our clients while there was a lockdown. So that's where these demos I show you today actually come from. Some of them are not, some things I show you today are not public because of copyright reasons. So if you have any idea how to protect files on the web before to get downloaded, please tell me. I'm still looking for a solution. The old ones I gave in February, the demos from them, they are still online on webxr.silviagoetti.ch. And I think the red cube in front of the viaduct is still there, if you remember that. So last time topics last time were how the WebVR standard moved into WebXR standard. I showed you all the demos of ARJS and A-Frame. I introduced you to Model Viewer by Google. I'll show that again today. Then we had the geolocation WebAR, where I placed red cubes across Zurich. And I showed you the first example of using 3D objects and AR in e-commerce. That was done by Shopify. Meanwhile, there are more stores and companies that actually go in that direction. So this time I will talk a bit more about 3D objects on the web, the GLDF standard. I'll show you how I did an X-ray shelter on multi-texture objects. I gave you about an AR app I wrote and something new with Model Viewer. And as we all sit at home and have a computer in front of us, I thought we could do a nice code along. So where are we now? It's actually getting better in terms of the WebXR standard on in the browsers. Last time it was just Chrome. Now it's a bit more, especially on Chrome. They are really pushing this. Firefox is a bit behind, but we'll get there. So it's actually even more greener than last time I showed this. So when you want to share 3D objects on a web, they had to figure out a new standard, which is kind of GLTF standard. GLTF turns out to be something like the MP3 of the 3D models. Wait, so you can go find it on GitHub, or and the organization that does it is called Kronos. So it's here on kronos.org. You can find everything you need to know about GLDF. So maybe just have a look what it actually is. So they have a couple of sample models online on GitHub. And when you look into this here in GLDF, you can see that it's actually quite an amount of files. So you have this what's called here default normal, the metal roughness, and so on, textures, maps, and they define the different kind of different layers where how to define the look of the surface. For example, the normals. I can open one. The normal map kind of defines the structure of the whole thing. Yes. So, and what else is here is there's a binary file that encodes all the vertices and basically the structure of the entire thing. And then what's really interesting is the GLDF file. So when we look at it, then we have here, this is basically a JSON file that encodes the entire thing. So you include just this file, and then it pulls the rest. So we have your buffers here. It defines how in the background all this how the vertices and all that looks, how the files are actually encoded. Here you can see, for example, this is type vector3, so it is a vector. Yeah, basically it shows the mesh of the whole thing, because a 3D object, there's a lot of is constructed of having kind of a mesh with lines of triangles, and over that you put the entire texture things. So this is here encoded. And then you see here, for example, here we had the normal. So it shows, it points to the other files and it pulls the file in here. And then you go down, and the materials basically describe how these files then are applied. So, and this is just, here you see the textures, this decide which texture goes where. So this is basically how a sample file of GLDF looks like. You can actually even do even more with animation and everything you can put in there. So that's about the standard one. But what is even more easier is just to have the GLB file. The GLB does encrypt all the textures in itself, and so you just need to include one file, and that's it. So, and I'm downloading this now because we need it later. So when I had done this, we tried something else, because what we actually use is X-ray. So we thought it would be nice to have a demonstration of X-ray on an object. So this is a Bolex camera. So it's an antique camera. This is one of our twins. Looks really exactly perfect like the original one. But what's actually really more interesting is you can see the inside. And what I did here is, so you can see all the lenses and everything. So this is quite a complicated model just encrypted in GLB. And so you see all these different surfaces, and they also have a lot of different textures. So you see on the side there's plastic, there's leather, there's metal. And so when I tried this out, I just thought, all right, I can put on just a glow shader and it's done. So that way it was super easy. But the other way around, toggling back, was actually quite hard. So what I had to do is I used 3JS. 3JS is a framework for WebGL. There are a couple of them, but 3JS is one of the most famous. And so when you look at it, first you need to initialize. So you set up the cameras, you load the object, you put on lights so it looks nice and all that, and then you send it to the renderer. This is basically what this code does. What then, this is where the action actually happens. So I loaded the GLDF object here, and it turns out that the glass on it needed a bit more transparency. So I actually could access the mesh of it and tell, okay, if there is a glass texture coming along, because what it actually does, I realized that it always loads it the same way. So when there's a glass texture coming around, make it a bit more transparent. So it's actually really easy to if you get a bit how GLDF works, it's really easy to grab the different parts of it and actually do something with it. So I loaded it here, and what you see is I put it into an array because when I returned, so I later I apply a shader, and when I go through, I have to loop through every mesh and then so applying the shader, but going back was a bit difficult because I had different textures, about 6 at a time. So that's why I put them into an array, and each time, and when I return back to normal, I have to go through the array and take them from the array because I don't load it again the way it was loaded the first time. So that's how this really cool X-ray started. So as I had figured that out, we thought, okay, it would be actually cool to have an app where I can do X-ray inside the app with more than just one object. And so I was a little bit on the lookout and tried different things, especially I had different more requirements, and so ended up using using a company so called Jsonld. They have a lot of this AR stuff on the web already figured out last year. So when it gives a bit of a head start for developing AR apps on the web. They do a lot of machine learning too, so it was actually cool. But it's a paid thing, so it's open source. But I can show you if it works what I actually did, and I have to go to screencast. So I hope you see this. So here it loads one of the models. This is a chair, which I can move around. I can make it larger and smaller. I can turn it. And here's the X-ray. I can show you again the camera, and it's a bit a while because a file size of a GLDF file which we have here is around 8 to 10 megs in good quality, so it takes usually a while to download. And I deactivated preload because it did destroy some other things. So here's the camera again, so I can walk around. My microphone is not so long like my cable here, and then I can put here the X-ray again. And then I can actually make a picture of it and save it later. So this is what I could build within about a week or so with the tools of Jsonld. So how is it behind? It's basically give us it's an A-frame project. Is there with a modified A-frame package. So you know A-frame is the framework for doing AR on the web on VR. And you give them, you pull a couple of their magic into it, and then we're lots of JavaScript, a bit of CSS, and then I had to do a bit of trickery and do different containers. So these buttons are all containers overlaid on the web, on the whole thing, because it's basically a website what you see. And then on the right side, the code on the right side is the actual scene. So I overlay the buttons over the scene, and access it with JavaScript. And then I pull all these components in, and yes, and I need slides and everything, and just swap out the model again with JavaScript. That's basically how I did it. And then I did something else, because last time I showed you the model viewer, and so here just was one picture. What I actually ended up doing was building an entire gallery. This is some of our models. This is the model viewer. Model viewer is itself a component, and just put a component in and swap it out with a slider. So for example, our sushi. Yes, or the chair you've seen before. So it loads them down, puts them in here, and I just swap out the viewer itself. So that was this is technology of about May. Since there has something changed. If you go to modelviewer.com, they actually, with the current Chrome, they put in DOM overlay in AR. So I still haven't figured out yet how it works, but they you can actually do now the slider inside. And what's also really cool is you can go on this page and open it with your phone. Do the usual view in your space like last time we did the horse. And now model viewer does web first and not going down to scene viewer as it did. So you can actually have the entire slider now inside your web AR application, which is pretty cool. So I think you can try that for yourself at home. But there's even something that is even cooler, and that's the editor. So you actually don't need even to code anymore to use AR. So when you're going here to modelviewer.dev/editor, then just go there and drag your model in. This is the one I downloaded before. And then you can see what you want. You can check out if you want change a bit of the lighting. You could put an HDR and background. You can put on the light a bit more. You can tune a bit on the shadows. And what's also really cool is you can add hotspots. So like here, and call it front. Add another one. So we have these hotspots where you can actually do posters. Posters are like preload screens. And see what's here, what they have, and textures. Maybe change a bit of metallic factors. And even change the way how the camera looks. But then, and that's really cool, is it generates you a lot of code. So if we copy the snippet and go over to Glitch, Glitch is a website that you can drop your code. Whoa, it wants for me. It wants to see hills. So And my address is here, polyester 6 choke. So you can actually go in here and remove the classic code. Add that in here. Then we can go back to see, take here the script to import it. So, and then we need our assets. We set them in here. Copy the right path. So I played around with environment, but we don't need that here. Instead, we add the AR tag. And now we should be able to look at this in a new window. And there it is. So we go there and see, open it on a browser. So actually you can do it right now. It's polyester minus 6 joke dot me. Go on screencast. So we have it here. And when you click on show in my space, no, hope demo effect is not working. Well, doesn't load. Well, luckily I did that before. So let's do it again. So that happens when you want to do a demo and it doesn't work. But I had another demo before. Not this one, the other one. So that's one I did this morning to test, but it's basically the same. So, and then you have your AR app basically done in 2 minutes. And yes, I hope you can now everybody can now do AR apps just on the fly. And I hope you had a bit of fun looking at it and playing around. And yes, so I'll leave you here. And then, yes, this is basically what I had to do to show this time. Yeah, I hope you have a lot of fun and you can try it out now yourself. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sylvia. This is amazing. This is mind-blowing because I remember when the Oculus Rift development kit 2 came out and you had to run a very specific version of Chromium that came from a Google Drive, or like an even more obscure version, test version of Firefox to get any like virtual reality on. And let's not even talk about augmented reality. And then like Web AR on AR Core and Web AR on AR Kit came out. This is amazing. Thank you so much. This was really, really cool. And as far as I can tell, the people who are commenting on the chat are also really, really happy. And I think like the only glitch might have been, I'm not sure if I saw this correctly, but I think when you loaded the AR version, like the first demo that you wanted to do with the, I think that was the non-HTTPS version. I think then it might have blocked the asset or something. So
could be, yeah. Yes.
But it doesn't matter. It's like amazing. You just basically drag this asset in and then you get the code out and then you put it in Glitch and then bam, you have an AR app. That's awesome. Yeah. That's really, really cool. Okay, Sylvia, thank you so much. If you want to join the after party chat, that would be cool. If not, that's also perfectly fine. And yeah, fantastic. I'm just, wow. Thanks so much. And it has been fantastic to have you here again. And I think we're all mind blown at this point. And looking forward to see what you're doing next, because you are definitely on a path of a trailblazer here, and that has been really cool. Thanks so much.
Thanks, it's cool.
Yeah. Awesome. In that case, thank you very much for joining us. Right, now I'm in the weird position where I get to introduce myself, I guess. So yeah, hi, I'm Martin Spitz. I am not only running this meetup in my free time, but I'm also actually working sometimes as a Google developer advocate for search-related topics and web. The web content ecosystem is what it's called. Our new team name, I think, is Search Relations. And I'm actually here to talk about something today that I think many developers are overlooking, and many people who are building things on the web in general are not necessarily seeing or using as much as they should. And that is structured data. What is structured data? Well, for those of you who have built websites in the past, they know that the web is inherently semantic. HTML, the hypertext markup language that we use to make our content, has lots of ways to describe what kind of content we are looking at, right? We have, in this case, we have a website that has a header. It has a main heading, a title heading, kind of. It has a navigation, which contains a menu, probably, that allows or affords us a way of navigating between different pages from the website or the web application. And then there is a section. In this section is an article, which is a coherent block of information that has its own subheading. And then there's an image. The image even has an alt attribute, which allows people who are non-seeing to understand what this image potentially portrays. And then we have some text markup, and that's it. Oftentimes, I see people kind of just using like div or paragraph or a span for everything. If you're doing that, don't. HTML has many, many ways of telling the browser and the user what content is, in the sense of, this is the header, this is the main part, this is a section that is contained in itself, there's an article that is a self-contained unit of information, here is a header, there is a button, here is a link, there's an image. We have all this power. Use it, and use it wisely. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't do diffs for images or something like that. Yes, sure, you can use CSS background images, but if you want to show an image, why don't you just use the image tag, for instance? But this is more about like how the information architecture looks like, what kind of information is semantically on the page, but not necessarily about the content, the semantics of the content. Because here, there's a header, there's a navigation bar, there's a headline, there's another headline, there's an image, but it's not really, is this an article? Is this a product? Is this a recipe? There's no information about what the content specifically is from a semantic point of view. And that's where structured data comes in. And with structured data, a community-driven open body of work that is called schema.org. The idea is basically, wouldn't it be nice to add additional semantics to describe the content of our page, not just in terms of the content structure that is relevant for rendering it in the browser and understanding from crawlers and stuff, but can we add more semantics? Can we give more rich information about what the website portrays, such as, is this a recipe? Is this a blog post? Is this an article? Is this a product? What is this? And what if we can do it in a way that is not just human consumable? Because humans probably, when I look at the website that we had before, this one, I can probably figure out, okay, so this is an awesome website, great. It has an article, that in the article there's an image of a cat. So it's probably an article about a cat. It's not a product, very unlikely to be a product. It's not a recipe, hopefully. Don't eat your cats. I mean, no shaming here, but... can we make this additional enriched information machine readable and not just express what this is about, but also how it relates to other things? Can we basically create a huge machine readable graph? Like this article appears in this website, which is the website of this company, which also sells these products. And basically, can we create a machine readable representation of the entire information that is there on the web? Wouldn't that be awesome? We would have a gigantic machine navigatable and machine readable database of the humanities information that is on the web. And how would we do that? Well, we kind of need a few standards, and we want the community to drive these things. So everyone, you can propose a new piece of structured data information, a piece of semantics that can be expressed. And also there are standards on how you would express them so that machines can read them as well. And mainly there's like 3 formats. And as far as I'm aware, all of them are W3 standards. I'm not sure about Json Ld, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. One of the older ways of enriching your HTML so that it has this additional structured data and semantics was microdata. Microdata basically mixes the the human readable information with the semantics for the browser and the semantics for structured data. Basically HTML attributes. We'll look at that in a second. Then in the more academic world of things, people came up with the RDFA specification, which is I think it's XML based. It's a specification that specifies how to put some extra XML into your HTML that then also basically points at things and explores additional semantic information about what the content really represents. And then you can link things, and yeah, it's very interesting to read the specification. They have plenty of books about it as well if you're interested. But RDFA hasn't necessarily broadly caught on. And then there's Json Ld, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation. That's the JSON part, - linked data. And I think the name perfectly represents what this is about. It's about linking different pieces of information together semantically and in a structured way so that machines can read it. So if you're familiar with JSON, you already know how to write Json Ld. It's just a very specific kind of JSON that you have to write to make that happen. But let's look at how these formats look like. So this is microdata. Here we have a piece of HTML, a div with a span inside with an image and another div. And there's like a progress meter and then some additional text. Here we see, like, if you remove some of the semantics here, it's basically a div that says Panasonic White 60L refrigerator, then has an image of that product, and then has a meter that can go from 0 to 5 and is currently filled up to 3.5. So that's like a rating thing, how well it has been rated. And then it says also additionally rated 3.5 out of 5 stars, points, whatever. And then says also this is based on 11 customer reviews. That's normal HTML. There's nothing fancy. If it weren't for a few additional attributes that you might not have used so far, there's the item scope and item type, as well as item prop HTML attributes. And what they do is they say like, so here the item scope says like everything in here is one entity. And the item type says the entity that we are looking at is a product. And you can see there's this URL, https schema.org/product. So this is a semi-standardized, or I would say standardized, community-based notion of an entity. We know what a product is. It is described by certain properties. What are these properties? For instance, the product has a name. And that's where the item prop comes in. So now we have this block of information with an image in there, with some text in there, some more text and some numbers, and then this meter. But what do these mean in terms of the product description that we have in or regarding to schema.org? And then we can say, okay, so here's the thing. Here's a blob. The span has a blob of text. This text is the name of the product. So we are in a product block, and inside this product block, there's a name, and the name is Panasonic White 60L refrigerator. So now a machine does not need to know which text it needs to look at, because it can look at, oh, so the span is the name of the product, and then it can take just that piece of information. It doesn't have to be smart to understand that the based on 11 customer reviews is not part of the name, for instance, because we have specified this here. The image is just an image, and that's not really related to the product specification here. And then we have an aggregate rating. Aggregate rating is a different item. It's a different entity. So this is a product, and this product has an aggregate rating. That's why we see another item scope here. So everything in this div that says item scope and then says item type aggregate rating is its own thing. There is an aggregate rating of reviews or whatever kind of rating system, and it's part of the product. And the product can have, so the specification for product says this can have an aggregate rating. There we go. And then we have to tell it what the value is. In this case, we have the property rating value, and the value is 3.5. Fair enough. Then also, aggregate ratings have a review count. How many ratings is this based on? 3.5 out of 5. And how many votes were cast? In this case, 11. You see, this gets a little muddled. It looks kind of nice, and I like that you can do this like inline with your HTML, and yeah, but it's hard to spot mistakes quickly, especially if this content gets larger and stretches multiple screens. It also is kind of like muddled into the HTML, and then if some element somehow accidentally moves because you have a closing tag where one doesn't belong, then it breaks quite easily. It's not that easy to debug. It's not that easy to extract, actually. You would have to have a proper HTML parser. Not so easy. And we know that different browsers parse HTML differently, for instance, slightly differently. It gets better over time. I think now we are pretty much having like a solid common ground for HTML parsing, but like 20 years ago, that looked very different. So that was messy, but it worked. But then academia was like, no, I think we should do this like slightly differently. How about we add these like property things in here that says like, here is a title. This is much more granular as well. Like this entire thing has a title. The title is The Trouble with Bob. And it was created in a certain time. And that time is the, I don't know, depending on if this is an ISO date, it's probably the 10th of September in 2011. And that's more or less like microdata, but it has a different granularity. And also, it doesn't necessarily have to group things by entity. It basically just describes what the different bits and pieces are, semantically speaking. You can do that. It hasn't really caught on that much, as far as I can tell. There is a quite active academic community, and there's a lot of work being done, but we are not necessarily seeing it on many websites. And the last one is Json Ld. That's Json Ld linked data. It's a normal JSON object, except that you put it in a script that isn't JavaScript. The script type is application LD, which is for linked data, plus JSON. And that signals to the browser and anyone who wants to look for structured data that that's what they are looking for. So they can look at the page, see if there is an application LD plus JSON tag. If there is one, then you can go for it and basically take the JSON in there and expect that to be structured data. In this case, this piece of Json Ld describes an organization. And hypothetically, you can have your own repository of semantic objects, but normally you would refer to it on schema.org. So schema.org is kind of like the default global platform for defining semantics, and they have all sorts of semantics defined. And you say like, so we are taking something from schema.org, and specifically we take the organization property. So this website describes an organization. Its main URL is this, and then it has a logo at this URL. Great. This is a little easier to debug because it's JSON. It's a lot easier to, there's lots of tooling available for it. It's easier to generate this dynamically with JavaScript or with your backend programming language of choice. It's easy to debug because it's in one block, so you don't have to search things from different parts of the website. You just get this one block, and then you have the information that you need and can take that into validation tools, for instance. It's self-contained pretty much. Okay, that's great. Now we've seen 3 different ways of doing this, but why would I care? That's the question that many people ask themselves, and I asked myself as well, until I embarked on this journey a couple of years ago, where I wanted to see what I can do with things like Google Now and Google Assistant. And if you're writing HTML emails and you embed structured data, cool stuff happens. And the same is true for websites. One example that I like to point out here, because I happen to work in Google Search. So one thing that we do is what we call rich results. So if our crawler, which is Googlebot, sees your website and takes it in, it sees that there is structured data on it. And if there's structured data on it, that means that we can use a program to understand what is on this website potentially. And we don't have to just do smart things with the text that you give us and the images that you give us, because you give us additional information that we can just take in and then do something useful for the user and probably also for your website. So whenever we get the structured data and it's valid and we understand what it is, and it fits into the verticals that we support, which are many, like products, books, movies, courses, jobs. What else do we support? Recipes. If you have licensed image data that you would like to share, like stock photos or something that you create and want to share with people, you can do like all sorts of stuff. There's a website I'll show at the end where you can like find out more about this. And then once we have that, we can use the information and highlight your content in Google Products, for instance. In this case, if I search for Google Home and find a website that happens to have this marked up as a product, then it understands, aha, so your website is about a product that is called Google Home, and the user is looking for Google Home, so they're probably looking for this product. So we can show the description of what the product is, the product name, how high it was rated, what price it currently sells for, if it's in stock or out of stock. This kind of information can be highlighted here, but not only here, it can also be highlighted in other surfaces like the Google Home device itself, or on Google Assistant, or in the Discover feed. So if you have a recipe, we can show how long it takes to make the recipe, which ingredients you need, how much calories it has, and all this kind of stuff can be highlighted to the user. And then, for instance, if it's a recipe that has structured data that explains the steps of preparing this dish, then that means that the Google Home can read out the steps, like first, slice the onions, at which point I would say I don't want to do this recipe, but that's up to you, obviously. But yeah, so we can use this machine-readable semantic information to highlight your content specifically. Doesn't necessarily mean that if you have structured data that we will always do that. There's other factors that go into this. But basically, fundamentally, when we have this information, you're eligible to be highlighted in these results. Other search engines do the similar thing. And definitely, we will probably see more like voice assistants and stuff that will need information from the web and will probably try to consume this via structured data because it gives you the semantics in an easier consumed way. Cool. Okay, so I definitely want these nice results. I mean, look at it. There's like stars on it. There's a price on it. So I can definitely get excited about it and want to click on the thing. So how do I actually implement this? Well, the first way to do that is if you're using CMS or some sort of platform, they might already do this. If they don't, there's very likely to be a plugin that allows you to do this. So basically, There's like WordPress plugins and Drupal plugins, and certain e-commerce platforms have that feature built in, that if I create a new product and give it a name and give it a price and give it an image and a description, that they also include the structured data in one of the three formats. And then Google and others can consume this additional structured data and then highlight your information. So you might already be doing this without even knowing. If you're not using a CMS or platform, and those, or maybe those you do, but those actually don't support it, then you have the opportunity to do it yourself. You can do that if you're using like PHP. You can totally do it in PHP, just like get the Json Ld block out there. That's fine. You can also do it in vanilla JavaScript if you're using like a headless CMS or something. Get the product information, or get not the product information, but get the information you need for the structured data you want to include, and then create the structured data on the go. Frameworks often have helpers or libraries for this. You can also do it in vanilla JavaScript. You don't need a framework for this. But what if you don't have a CMS and you don't want to actually touch the JavaScript on the page directly and do it vanilla yourself, because maybe you don't have access to the JavaScript that takes the data from the backend and then creates the front-end bits? Well, then you have a workaround that is Google Tag Manager. You can go into Google Tag Manager and run custom JavaScript that basically says, like, I don't know, for instance, the headline 2, the head H2 element on your page, that's the name of the recipe. In that case, you can pull that into Google Tag Manager and then put it into a Json Ld block and then put the Json Ld block on the page. So that's a possibility that you have to actually implement structured data as well if you don't really have access to the front-end code, but the front-end has all the information you need to actually have valid structured data on it. Yeah, and there's an example. Here we have a Vue component. Let's say the Vue.js component has a script tag with the appropriate type, which is application/ld plus JSON, and then does a Vue-html for the structured data property. The structured data property in this case is just a string. And when we are creating the component, or when we're mounting the component, whenever we have the data available, then we can set the structured data to the block of JSON, in this case, again, an organization, because it's short as an example. And then we load the base URL from the backend, for instance, and then we put in the logo path, and then we have the structured data for an organization dynamically generated in our Vue.js component. If you want to learn more about this, I only have so much time, unfortunately. If you want to learn more about this, I definitely recommend you go to goo.gle/search-gallery. There you find a list of, I can actually open this, I think. There you find a list of search-gallery. There you find a list of verticals that we support and how it actually works in much more detail. So we support article, book, breadcrumb, carousel, course, critic review, dataset, employer aggregate rating, event, fact check, FAQ, how to, image license, job posting, job training, local business, logo, movie, estimated salary, podcast, product, Q&A, recipe, review snippets, site link search box, software app, speakable markup, subscription and paywall content, and video. If you have any of this, let's say like I run a podcast, you can click here, and then you can see how it shows up. You see like this is what it would look like. I can actually make this larger, I think. Whoop. This is what it looked like in search results if it's properly implemented. And then you can figure out if you're hosting your podcast, or if you have an RSS feed, or if you are the recipe kind of blogger, then maybe you want them to show up nicely like this here with stars and how long it takes to prepare them, and with like a nice preview picture. And where else it might show up, like the carousel. So there's like different ways that we can choose to show such information. And here you see like a bunch of stuff. Here is an example of a recipe that is very, very detailed. And you can just click on this little button and you get sample code. You can play around with this. I can say like Martin's rainbow unicorn cookies, for instance. And then I can say test my code. You can also put a URL in here if you have a website that you want to test if the implementation is correct. And then you see like, yes, this is eligible. This is the HTML that we saw. This is how it might show up in the search results. So Martin's Rainbow Unicorn Cookies, it has been rated 5 out of 5 based on 18 reviews. It takes 50 minutes to make this. It might also show up like this. It might have like guidance where it's like yield is 10 cookies, 20 minutes preparation time, 30 minutes cooking time, has 270 calories. Here are the steps. So there's definitely a variety of ways this could show up, and this is kind of cool, I think. And you can see like what it shows up for. So there's a guided recipe in here. There's a recipe in here that does not have the guided bits and pieces. There are reviews in here. There's a video of the maybe the cooking process in here. So you can try this out and validate it in the testing tool, and then basically just like go wild with it. And with that, I'd like to say thank you very, very much. That was my talk. I hope that you got interested in trying this out. Definitely have a look at the URL that I share here and give it a go and let us know what you think, or if the documentation needs improvement, for instance. Yeah, and that was it for today's Webzurich. I hope that this was fun and enjoyable. If you are interested in joining the live chat, then I have just the thing for you. So if you want to go to the live chat, there's, whoop, there, ding. You can go to webzh.dev/afterparty and join the Jitsi instance and join us, you know, just chat and hang out and have fun, or don't. If you don't want to join us, that's fine. We'll be back on the 25th of September. We'll keep you posted on meetup.com. So definitely join the meetup group as well, or check the website every now and then to not miss the next opportunity. It'll very likely be virtual again, so you definitely have a good chance of actually being able to join us virtually and via the internet again next month. Awesome. In that case, thank you so much for joining, everyone. I hope you had fun. I'm trying to catch up with the comments. Oh, hi, Marianne. And yeah, just enjoy, have a great evening, have a fantastic weekend, and wherever you are in the world, stay safe, stay healthy, and hope to see you again next time. Thank you so much. Bye.